Welcome to the channel. In this video, I'm going to be going over a bunch of items that I picked up from Temu for working on your 3D prints. Temu asked me to make a follow-up video to my last one involving beginner 3D printing accessories. In that video, I covered all the starter items I could think of that you need for 3D printing, so this one I'm going to focus on more advanced printing accessories. So keep watching as I unbox and demo all the items that I picked out, and maybe you'll see something that you might want to add to your 3D printing tool belt. The items I picked up fall into two categories: post-processing and electronics. I covered simple post-processing items in my last video, so this one they're a little bit more advanced, some power tools and some products used to help you assemble multiple parts together. For electronics, it's all the items you're going to need to take your projects to the next level and start adding lights and maybe motors. If you use the code listed below in the app, it'll take you to a catalog of all the items I show in this video all in one spot, and you'll get a $100 coupon code to use for them. Also, if you're using a new account with this code, you'll get 90% off all the items. One item I want to point out from my last video: if you're watching this well after I posted it, some items get sold out pretty quickly. On Temu though, there's a lot of different companies selling basically the same products, so if the one I've listed you can't find, if you look around, I'm sure you can find something that's basically the same thing. And now with that all out of the way, let's take a look at the first item. The first item I have here is a cordless rotary tool. I like this because it's small, compact, and easy to grab for quick jobs. I have a larger plug-in version, which is more powerful, but a lot more cumbersome to use and a lot bigger process to get out, plug in, and deal with. Even though it's cordless, it'll still have more than enough power for dealing with sanding or cutting jobs you'll have on your 3D prints. And charging is simple with the included USB-C cord. It has a built-in light to illuminate whatever you're working on, and then 5 power settings. The kit also comes with other accessories. You get one container full of sanding discs and drums, which will be great for all of your prints. And then there's a second container that has a bunch of other attachments. A lot of these are grinding stones meant for metal, which aren't going to do great for your plastic prints, but you might have other uses you can use them for. There's also these 2 cutting wheels that seem interesting. We'll see how they work out on plastic. The sanding drums simply slide over the sanding armature, and then you tighten the screw in the end that causes the rubber to expand, locking it into place. These little saw blades cut the PLA pretty nicely. The low speed of the rotary tool actually is a benefit here, as it doesn't melt the plastic and just cuts through it pretty cleanly. If you do end up picking up this rotary tool, you might want to look into other attachments for it. Like I said, this kit only comes with a few things, but there's so many different options for sanding and cutting you get for rotary tools. Just look around, you can find them everywhere. Next we have a foot sander. It's a bit of an odd choice, but I've seen others use them and rave about them, how great they are for sanding your prints. So I thought I'd give it a try. It's basically just a high torque motor with a sanding disc on the end, so it's not very complicated. It's not like an orbital sander for woodworking that oscillates. It just simply spins. The motor has a lot of torque, so it doesn't bog down, but it doesn't go at a very high speed either, so you don't have to worry about melting your prints. The power cord has the power switch and speed controller, so you can adjust how fast you want it to go, and it comes with a bunch of sanding discs that are adhesive that you just peel and stick onto the end and start sanding. For this specific one here, I would like it to spin a little bit faster, but it's not bad. You have to worry about melting the prints if you get the speeds too high, so I guess it's okay. And it's definitely better than sanding by hand. It might take a little while, but at least you're not wearing yourself out. You're just holding the machine and letting it do the work. If you're creating prints in multiple pieces and gluing them together, you're going to have seams that you need to fill in. And that's what these little bottles are perfect for. I generally use resin or UV resin to fill in the seams and then sand it smooth. And you need some way to apply it very accurately. And these little bottles with the metal tips let you very precisely lay down a bead where you need it. And the fact that the bottles are opaque means that you don't have to worry about the resin curing inside the bottle just from sunlight in the room. You get 5 bottles in the package, and you get this little funnel to fill it. These would also be great if you're using colored resin for prints, where maybe you're printing something with a sunken in area and you're filling it in with different colored resins. You can have multiple colors in these and precisely place them and then cure them with light. Similar to the previous bottles, I would use this kit for working with resin, but more for unique applications or for larger or smaller ones. The kit comes with a variety of different size syringes, some very small to some very large, and then also these larger squeeze bottles. The kit also comes with a bunch of attachments for the ends of the bottles and syringes, long metal precise applicators, along with some other different plastic ones. Also, if you're working with a lot of resin printing and very large ones that you have a hard time getting into your wash and cure station, these can be used to squirt IPA into hard to reach places to make sure you clean out all the resin. Now, if you are going to be working with resin to fill cracks and blemishes on your prints, you're going to need a UV light to cure it. When looking for a UV light, make sure you find one that matches the wavelength of your resin curing needs. Most resins for 3D printing cure at 405 nanometers. And that's what this light is. I had to look around quite a bit. This is the only one I could find at that. A lot of the other ones were at 395, and that'll affect how efficient the light actually cures the resin. This one's pretty simple. This plugs into a USB charger, and it has the on-off button on the cord. This isn't the most powerful light, but it really doesn't need to be if you're just curing small sections at a time. For this item, I got a lot of comments on my last video as it being an essential item, especially if you do a lot of resin printing. These are razor blade scrapers, except the razor blades are made of plastic. This way you still can apply quite a bit of force and have a very sharp edge to scrape whatever you're trying to remove from a surface, but because the blades are plastic, you won't be able to gouge or scratch whatever you're scraping. A common use for this is if you ever have a spill on your resin screen and you get resin baked onto it. This is a really good use to try to remove it gently without actually scratching the glass or gouging it. And really this can be used for anything, taking hot glue, anything paint you might have spilled on a desktop or a surface that you want to scrape but don't want to run the risk of gouging the surface. This package comes with 2 handles and I believe 100 blades, so you have a bunch to go through. I mean, they are plastic, so they will wear out quickly, but you have a whole bunch to work with. This is another item I got a lot of comments on my last video from, and that's a 3D pen. These pens have a bunch of different applications. You can use it just on its own and to create different objects with. But more commonly for 3D printing, it's used to fill in cracks just like the resin, but this way you're using just regular PLA and not anything special. Because it's a melting PLA, you can also use it to stick small prints together, use it as a glue. And if you get any small imperfections in the print, you can use this to kind of fill it in and smooth it off. The pen itself is pretty simple. It's basically just a hot end and an extruder in one package. This one particular has 2 settings for PLA or ABS. You just plug it in, let it warm up, which it heats up pretty quick, and then you just have a forwards and backwards button. What I found is both of them are auto feeding, so you can set the speed at which you want it to go, but you just press it and it'll just keep feeding filament until you press it again to stop. This kit comes with a bunch of filament to practice with and a little stand to hold the pen and a couple other attachments. I can see this being really useful if you don't want to go down the resin route for filling in seams and cracks. You just fill this in with a bead of filament, and then you take your soldering iron to smooth it out. and it'll be pretty good as is. You'll have very little sanding to do. If you're getting into printing objects that are multiple pieces that need to be glued together or painted and left to dry, one of the biggest problems you'll run into quickly is how do you hold on to them and where do you put them to dry. That's where this little parts holder is a great addition to your workflow. It opens up to hold all the little stands, and each one is a set of jaws on a flexible stick with a magnetic base. So once you close the box back up, you can grab onto your different parts with the jaws and then stick them onto the magnetic base for them to dry afterwards. This setup gives you the option to easily pick up the part holding onto the stick. That gives you freedom to move around, paint, especially if you're airbrushing, not getting it all over your hands. And then when you're done, you just easily stick it back onto the base and leave it there till it's dry. And then once it's done, it all packs back up into the case and to easily be stored. Something else you'll find you'll never have enough of once you start gluing prints together are clamps. These come in handy not only for holding parts together while glue dries, but temporarily clamping objects to each other or to a shelf to hang something. You'll be surprised at how many uses you find for them once you have them. In this box you get 20 clamps, which is quite a bit, and they're just the right size where they're not too small that they don't apply enough pressure, but they're not so big that they're going to be cumbersome to work with. Something else that's common once you start getting into more advanced projects is adding electronics to your prints, either LED lights or some kind of motors. And the best way to control those is with these small Arduino Nano boards. This package comes with 3 of them, so you can have it for multiple projects, and they're pretty simple to use. If you look online, there's a ton of information on how to work with them, how to program them, a bunch of sample material you can use. Really, it's pretty easy to get up and running with them. I've done a few projects on the channels using different LED light patterns, and they're all driven by an Arduino board like this. If you're using electronics in your projects, one common problem you're going to run into is having the proper power settings for different components. You can think of them as like dimmer switches. They work anywhere between 3 and 40 volts, and whatever you're inputting into the buck converter, you can then dial it back down to whatever voltage you need. A common example would be if you're using one of those Arduino boards I showed to drive a bunch of LEDs, but the LEDs are at 12 volt, the Arduino boards run out 5 volts. So now you have an issue between the 2 voltage amounts. So what you would do is you would use a 12 volt power supply to run the LEDs, and then use one of these buck converters to take that 12 volts and dial it down to 5 for what the Arduino needs. The way it works is pretty simple. There's just that little screw on the top of that blue square box, which is a variable resistor, and then just turning that up or down will attenuate the voltage coming out the other end, positive or negative. You can't add more than you're putting in, you can only dial it down. So an example here, you start at 12 volts, you just dial it down until you hit 5, and then you're good. Another issue when dealing with electronics is you need some way to prototype stuff and temporarily hook things up to make sure it's going to work the way you think it's supposed to, and that's where these alligator clip wires come in. They're pretty common, you can find them all over the place, but they're great to have a whole bunch around for whatever your needs are. There's not much to them, it's just a wire with an alligator clip on both ends, but it makes it pretty simple to temporarily wire up projects to make sure everything's working properly before you start soldering. Now, this I've heard referred to a couple different ways. Either it's called a helping hand or a third hand. It's basically just a bunch of adjustable arms with some kind of clamp at the end. These ones have like little alligator clamps that lets you hold on to objects and you can position them while you work on them. So if you're soldering wires onto an Arduino or the buck converter, you can easily hold it in place with this, and then it gives you both your hands to work with solder and holding wires. Or if you're gluing smaller objects together, you can use the multiple arms to hold on in position to where you want to hold it in place as you glue it. It's just handy for a bunch of different operations. And this one here just has a little clamp that'll clamp onto your table, and then it has 5 different arms that you can use in different applications. Once you get into working with electronics, one thing you're going to be doing a lot is stripping wires. So having a quality wire stripper is super important to make the process just go faster. Simple wire strippers where it just has the little rings of different sizes that you can crimp around the wire and then you have to pull off the insulation, that works, but it often causes issues, especially if you're working in very tight places, to be able to hold onto the wire properly. And more often than not, you can like yank the wire out of whatever it's attached to. With this automatic wire stripper, it's very simple, where you just place the wire in the jaws and press the levers, and it'll automatically grab the wire and pull on itself to pull the insulation off, so you're not having to yank on the wire. This automatically adjusts the different size wires. You can also strip multiple wires at the same time. Also, once you start working with electrons, you're going to need some way of testing to make sure your connections are correct and you have the proper voltages wherever you're going. So you need some kind of multimeter. You don't need anything very complicated for just doing simple projects like this, but this just looked cool, so I had to take a look at it. It kind of looks like a smartphone. It's just a big LCD screen, but it does all the same basic functionality of any normal multimeter. What I do like about this is that it has this auto feature where you don't have to, usually you have to set it to what you're looking for, whether you're checking resistance or voltage, AC, DC. With this auto setting, you just leave it and it automatically figures out what you're testing. Something else you'll need while working with electronics is you're going to need to insulate the wires after you attach them together. So the easiest way to do that is with heat shrink. This kit's listed at 580 pieces with a bunch of different sizes. So, I mean, unless you're doing a ton of electronic work, this will probably last you like your lifetime. The smaller ones is what you'll most commonly use on most of your wiring, and then the bigger ones are good for when you have a bundle of wires. You can then place another one over top to heat shrink them all together to keep them organized. The way this works is pretty simple. You just make sure you put it over your wire before you solder them together, and then once done, you just slide it back over top, and you can use a lighter or a heat gun just to heat it up, and it shrinks to like a third or a quarter of its original size. The last item on the list is something I saw for your filaments, that if you're getting to more advanced projects, you're probably getting away from PLA and you're starting to use materials like PETG, TPU, maybe nylons. All of these are very susceptible to moisture. So they need to be kept in a dry environment, otherwise you have a bunch of print problems if they'll absorb moisture from the air. So these vacuum bags are similar to what your plastic comes packaged in when you buy it. It's basically just a big Ziploc bag with a little air pump. The kit also comes with these little tabs. It looks like you would cut one off and throw it in the bag, and it will kind of tell you what the moisture level is in the bag. But otherwise, it's pretty simple. You put your filament in, you close it, and then there's a one-way valve on the corner that you just press the pump on top, and you just start pulling the air out of it until it's completely vacuum sealed. So that's everything I picked out for advanced accessories, and I just want to say, if you made it this far in the video, you're awesome. It can get tricky to pick out generic accessories, because once you start getting into more advanced techniques, you can get very specific very quickly. I'm sure I've missed some items that people think are critical, so let me know in the comments what you would add to the list. Start your comment with the word tool, so I know you made it this far in the video. Also, if you found this video useful, do me a favor and hit that like button, and make sure you send this to your other 3D printing friends so they could see if there's anything they'd like to add to their tool belt. If you haven't seen my first video on 3D printing essential accessories, I'll leave a link here so you can go check it out. Thanks for watching.